Welcome to Around the Bend with Soki. Soki is an Alliance Paradigm 385 FL, and today we're going to be making some improvements to our RV. We're Mike and Ramona, and we live full-time in our RV. What I'm going to be showing you today is the problems we've been having with our dump valves. The one valve was actually replaced initially about 6 months in, and then the factory was good enough to replace it again. But it's now a year later a problem. So I was wondering why I kept having problems with this gray valve. It's the last one back, the one on the left. And when I took this down, what I found is that this cable comes out of there and does an immediate loop down and around and up and under here. Makes a big swing. Comes all the way back through. Was not fastened anywhere. I tried to fasten it a little bit to see if I could smooth it out, because it comes into this valve here, and this valve immediately makes a hard turn to the outboard to go through the gap that brings it around and back underneath here. So I tried to push a little cable in there to straighten it up, because I think it's binding in there. Because what it did is would not close all the way. That's what it started to do. This was replaced last year at this time up at the factory. But if you read any of the instructions on how to install these cables, they want you to come out straight 6 inches, fasten it to something, and then be able to have a nice big loop. The loop isn't bad, but it's not fastened to a thing. And this bend coming right out of here is nothing but a problem, because it's making two 90 degrees within 6 inches of the gate. It's kind of a miracle these other two are working as well as they are. They seem to be. I think the only thing saving them is they have a longer run and a straighter run to the valves that are back down there. I think that's the only thing that's making it any better. So I think in this case, if I can probably replace this again, and I'll be doing this again probably next year or sooner, because this one's the one I used the most. Every other day we're using this because it's our shower. So not great. I think I'm going to try to replace this with one of those electronic valves, and it should solve this whole problem. As you can see, the cable housing is pulled off on an angle, and I think that's why it wasn't closing properly all the way. So this is what the new valve, Barker auto drain valve, looks like. You want to make sure that it's for the 3-inch. There's a couple of different sizes. They do an 1.5 inch and they do a 3-inch. Comes in this nice package, all nicely set up and ready to go. You open it up basically, and here's a close-up shot of the valve, the control, and the parts package. This is essentially what it comes in. This is what it looks like. There's nothing too fancy about it, and comes with all the pieces and parts necessary. Pretty extensive instruction sheet, which I've been kind of impressed with so far. What really impresses me, other than the instruction sheet, is that it comes with a complete list of all the parts and how they all go together. So if somewhere along the line I have a problem with it, I can actually tell them what I need, and maybe I can get those parts. That would be a wonderful thing. So this is the valve right here for the auto drain. I was able to tap into some power wires right here that go to one of my lights in the cabinet, which I was able to then tap in. They were nice enough to give me a nice wire with a fuse already in it, so I put that in line. And then this physically plugs right in to this right here, which I'm going to do, and then I'll show you how this thing actually works. So the unit comes with this nice box. It's all pre-wired. Once you get it all connected up, it has a nice warning on it that tells you not to open it unless you really want it of it. And then it has an open and close, and there is a red light that goes on when you actually make it go. So what we end up doing is we connect this together, and I'll roll it over here so you can actually see what happens when it works. When you hit the on button, it takes about 3 seconds for it to open up, and you'll see the light is blinking all the time that it's on. And then you hold it for about 3 seconds, it closes and the light goes out. So it's a pretty simple operation. It's just a matter of connecting it up underneath now, and we should be ready to go. So now I got all the parts out here. Pull this out, and I've got to put a couple of things together. There's the fittings and things that need to go together. Comes with this piece right here that is designed so that it works for both 1.5 inch and a 3-inch. So in order for it to work on the 3-inch, I have to put this on from this direction, and then it will fit right over the 3-inch valve, just like it's supposed to. So I'm going to work on putting that together right now. Goes on there. Put a washer on, and then we can go ahead and put this nylon locking nut right on in place of it. Too carried away, because this part bolts onto the bolts that are actually on the valve underneath already. Just don't want to spring this, and it locks itself in place so that there's no way it can move on its own. So they provided this bracket which goes on here. You can actually bolt that on. It fits either 1.5 inch or 3-inch. You bolt that in place, and then that actually bolts to the valve itself. And now I've got to work on this assembly in the back here, because that's actually going to go onto the stem of the valve and then fasten to here. So that essentially goes on like that. You can move it up, down, turn it around any way you need to. It's got an adjustment right here so that it can slide either way necessary. It's going to be probably a lot easier to mount doing it this way. Both sides are threaded so that it'll thread right onto that valve stem. They've got it offset so that you can go a couple of different ways with it, which makes life a whole lot easier to work with. So before I could install the Barker valve, I had to remove the cable assembly. There's 2 prongs on either side of that main valve that need to be pried with a screwdriver to pop that whole assembly off, and the cable has to be disconnected. So this is the actual valve. Auto drain is going to go right onto here. These bolts I just pull out, fit it on there. I've got to take this little bit of a flange here out of the way because it's going to rust on top of it. Kind of give it a hard time. I don't want it to flex. And then I already put the lock nut in place, so basically it bolts right on over this area here. just like this. Goes right in place there, and everything should line right up. Yep. So I'm taking this bolt out of here and literally just turning it around so that it's easier for me to put the valve on it, just like that. Now I'm going to do the same for the upper one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to thread the valve onto this post before I do this. So I'm not trying to do it after I get the valve in the way. Then I can just adjust it from here to whatever I need to do. So that's going to fit in like that. Then I can put my valve right on up and in here. It's supposed to be. So I have to get the first one on, make sure the second one fits on as well. There's a couple holes there, so I have to make sure I get the right one, which I just did right there. That straightens everything up where it's supposed to be. And I have to do some spinning of this thing. To make sure that I have some clearance here. So that it doesn't bind up. So this is what it looks like when it's done. I've got my clearance up in here that I need to make that work. I believe that's 3/16 or pretty close to it. It's supposed to be an 1/8 or 3/16. It bolts right on, up top and on the bottom, right in there like that. And now I just have to figure out, get my wire down here, and I should be good to go. So you'll see I have the wiring in place, and I lucked out because right up in there there's a gap between the shelf where the outside stuff is and it joins the body of the camper. There's just a gap right down through there, and I was able to drop my wiring down through there without drilling a single hole. So here's a couple still shots of how I installed the wiring and where it went and how it made it up through to the outside where the switch is going to go, and you'll see that later. But this turned out to be a very handy place to move it. The end result was a nice clean installation. The original handle was down here, so what we've done is actually just moved it, relocated it into the compartment right above it, fit it right in there, and wired it right in place. So it's just above where it was before, and as you can see, the red light is blinking when it's open. And now it is closed. So that's what the final installation looked like. So I hope you enjoyed this installation. This is kind of a new thing for us. We've been usually doing travels, and in this case I wanted to show a little bit of a how-to. I've got a couple others that I've done, and I'll include those on new videos shortly. Again, we're not affiliated with Barker or have any promotion with them. This is just a way to upgrade our camper and I thought it might prevent me from having to do more repairs in the future. Hope you enjoyed this video and you get something out of it. Thanks for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and we will see you around the bend.